Deputy District Attorney Sally Yates had to get confirmed by the Senate back in 2015 after she was nominated by President Barack Obama. Now, during those confirmation hearings, she was questioned about a number of things, including whether or not she would be willing to prioritize the law over what President Obama would want. So if President Obama wants to do something unlawful, people wanted to ensure that she would definitely side with the law as opposed to the president. In fact, during these interviews, an interesting person asked her that very question. Let's take a look.
I am committed to the Department of Justice. I love our department. I care deeply about our mission, and I would do everything in my power to protect the integrity that is the Department of Justice.
You have to watch out because people will be asking you to do things you just need to say no about. Do you think the Attorney General has a responsibility to say no to the president if he asks for something that's improper? A lot of people have defended the Lynch nomination, for example, by saying, well, he appoints somebody who's going to execute his views. What's wrong with that? But if the views the president wants to execute are unlawful, should the Attorney General or the Deputy Attorney General say no?
Senator, I believe that the Attorney General or the Deputy Attorney General has an obligation to follow the law and the Constitution and to give their independent legal advice to the president.
Well, that's true. And like any CEO with a law firm, sometimes the lawyers have to tell the CEO, Mr. CEO, you can't do that. Don't do that. We'll get us sued. It's going to be in violation of the law. You'll regret it. Please, no matter how headstrong they might be. Do you feel like that's the duty of the Attorney General's office?
I do believe that that's the duty of the Attorney General's office, to fairly and impartially evaluate the law and to provide the president and the administration with impartial legal advice.
That is amazing. That is an amazing video.
That's perfect. So now, of course, the roles have reversed a little bit. Jeff Sessions, who was a senator there, who was grilling Yates while she was being nominated for Deputy Attorney General, is now being grilled for Attorney General. And in fact, a lot of Democrats are uncomfortable with his answers and hence have not voted to confirm him yet. And back then, he's saying, you got to make sure you can hold the president in check. Now, the number one reason Democrats are holding up Sessions is because they think that he is uncritically loyal to Donald Trump.
Right.
That he will not be able to step up to Donald Trump. And of course, he asked those questions because Yates was going to work for Obama, and he didn't think she'd be working for Trump. So as luck and fate would have it, she's the acting Attorney General for Trump because Sessions has not been confirmed yet. Mm-hmm. And then she stands up for the president just like Sessions asked her to. Perfect.
Well, first off, I just want to state that former General Attorney Sally Yates proved herself right. You know, I mean, now we know what kind of action she would take if she disagrees with the actions of the president. And look, it's not easy to stand up to someone like Donald Trump in this climate, right? And so she gets fired immediately. She claimed she wanted to resign as soon as this issue came up, and she was completely blindsided by it because, of course, no one's going to, you know, confide in her or ask her for her advice prior to signing that executive order. But nonetheless, I mean, she followed through on what her promises were in that hearing. And also, look, Jeff Sessions himself said it in that questioning, in that line of questioning. Sometimes you got to go to the CEO and you got to say, Mr. CEO, that's not right. That's not legal, right? So what are you going to do when Trump does something that is unlawful? Are you in talks with Trump right now regarding the federal court orders that issued a partial stay in regard to this immigration ban? Probably not. You're not going to dissent. You're not going to disagree with him.
So if I were the Democrats, I'd say, hey, listen, let's come back in and have just one quick set of questions for Sessions, and then we'll have a vote, okay? Mm-hmm. And the Republicans are in the majority, so they'll win the vote. My only question is, you've got 5 federal courts saying that this ban should not be implemented at this time. It has to be further adjudicated. As the Attorney General, will you listen to the federal courts, or will you ignore federal court rulings? And if you ignore federal court rulings, does that mean the president is above the law? What else is he allowed to do?
Right.
Those are simple questions. Let's ask Sessions, and if he's got good answers, then okay. If he says, no, we're from now on, the court system is irrelevant. The executive branch has become basically king, and that is that. Okay, then we know your answer, right? Or if he says, no, of course we got to follow the courts. That's the American system of government. So the minute I get in, I'll tell President Trump, Mr. President, we're going to do this ban, and it's going to be a great ban, just like it is, but we got to win in court first. They told us we can't implement it for now. We'll win in court, we'll implement later, but we've got to follow what the courts say. It's his call. He can answer it in either way,
right.
But we've got to have an answer before we move forward on Sessions.
Exactly. Now, in 2015, when Sally Yates was confirmed by the Senate, there were actually a number of Republican senators and Republican lawmakers who had positive things to say about her. And it's interesting because now that she's been fired by Trump, these people are not coming out and supporting her and defending her. So I want to give you a few of those quotes because I think they are important. One person was actually Senator Johnny Isakson from Georgia. And he said, for the last 5 years, she, as in Sally Yates, has been the chief attorney, and she proved herself over and over and over again to be effective, to be fair, to be diligent, to be the kind of person that you would want representing you in the U.S. Attorney's Office.
Well, that sounds pretty good to me. He called her a great hero. He said that she had impeccable integrity and an impeccable record. Well,
yeah.
Doesn't get any better than that.
Another lawmaker was Senator David Perdue, also from Georgia, and Graphic 31, here's what he had to say. For years, she has prosecuted the most violent criminal organizations in Georgia, MS-13, which is a gang, and other notorious gangs, drug cartels, human smuggling, sex trafficking. The people in Georgia were fortunate to have benefited from Miss Yates' work in the service of justice for so many years. So many positive things to say about her in the past, but now all of a sudden, you know, she wants to prioritize the law, and she's a terrible person who should be fired.
Yep. So, classic Trump move, clear out everybody who doesn't agree with him. It's also a classic authoritarian move.
Yes.
Anyone who is politically incorrect. They might be legally correct, they might be factually correct, but if they're politically incorrect, they're immediately fired. Let's go take on the corporate media. Come join us, be a member, and change the media. tytnetwork.com/join.